The season is over. It comes to a close with a 4-1 loss at home to the Vegas Golden Knights for one final time. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios after Game 82, the end of the line for the Vancouver Canucks. And like the season itself, this one started with promise. Canucks opened the scoring and then fizzled from there. 4-1 is the final. The Vegas Golden Knights skate out of town with their 50th win of the year, 50 wins, something the Canucks could only dream of. They finished with 38 W's on the year, 38, 30, and 14, 90 points on the season. It's Rink Wide Vancouver for one final time. We won't spend a lot of time on the game itself, but we will spend a lot of time talking about the many issues that face the Vancouver Canucks. As always, Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365, and as always, too, you're encouraged to join us here with your thoughts and your comments to any of our social channels, and of course to the YouTube live stream. And if you want your chat, your comment, your question to reach us here, and to be read out on Rink Wide, hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. And as he has been almost every night throughout the season, my partner here, Irfan Ghaffar and Irf, this is it. We've reached the final destination for the 2024-25 season.
Yeah, if you would have told us at the beginning of the season this would be the final destination this Canucks team would end up at, I think we would both sit here and say, not entirely sure, but here we are. I mean, it's been a season of ups, a lot more downs for sure. Triumphs in
a few twists.
Yeah, a few twists, lots of turns. Yeah, exactly.
And here we are.
Yeah, it's had a bit of everything. I mean, like on a night where, the Canucks in front of their home ice fans, obviously they lay an egg. And then I think that's kind of been the theme of their season on home ice with, finishing with a record of, 17, 16, and 8.
Yeah, 17 wins in 41 times out this season. Not good enough, not nearly good enough. And the home record is a huge part of why 16 teams will start the playoffs, and the Vancouver Canucks won't be one of them. So, highly disappointing on Fan Appreciation Night when they hand out the hardware, and we'll run through the winners. It's a short list. It's one guy, essentially. But we will cover all of the year-end awards. The game itself, Pius Suter scores his 25th. Good for him. An incredible year for Pius Suter, a platform year, contract season. Pius Suter sets himself up. Every goal here for a while has been the cha-ching goal. So 25. I mean, that's a great accomplishment for him. Nice work in front of the net. Nice work by Garland and Höglander to get him the puck, and made no mistake as he cut out of the corner and tucked it home 8.5 minutes into the first period. And hey, the Canucks had a 1-0 lead.
That was about it.
Well, it stayed 1-0 for quite a while.
Yeah.
The late stages of the second period, Victor Olofsson wired one. Man, he leaned into a one-timer out of the left circle, beat Kevin Lankinen, and that tied the game. And at that point, I'm thinking, all right, there's still a period to go, but more overtime? Why not? They'd been to overtime 24 times. I kind of thought maybe this one would go to OT as well, but the Golden Knights took over in the third. They outshot the Canucks 10-4. Pavel Dorofeyev with a snapshot off left wing beat Nikita Tolopilo. Yes, there was a goaltending change for the Vancouver Canucks. We're told Lankinen had a mild muscle strain, and at this stage of the season and of a meaningless game, get him out of there, give Nikita Tolopilo a little more ice time, And unfortunately, Tolopilo suffers his first NHL loss after getting his first win the other night. He is the goaltender of record here as he came into a tie hockey game, and the Golden Knights scored 2 on him. Dorofeyev gets what turned out to be the winner. Jack Eichel, who didn't play last night and played. He dressed in this one, but didn't do a whole lot. But nice hand-eye. Gets his 28th of the year. That stretched the lead. And then Cole Schwint with his first NHL goal into an empty net. And that was it. That rounded out the scoring. 4-1 was the final. And yes, this one felt a lot like the one the other night against the San Jose Sharks. Intensity hard to come by at this time of the season. And the Golden Knights rested a couple of veterans again, as they did last night in Calgary. Lost in a shootout, but they get it right. And I do think, to some degree, to the players on this Vegas team, they're locked in the top spot in the Pacific. They know their playoff opponent. They're going to face Minnesota. But I'm sure the guys that have battled all year wanted that 50th victory.
Yeah.
And so they end up getting it in Vegas. Finishes with 50 wins for the third time in franchise history.
Yeah, and I think, look at it's Canucks post-game show, but it's always nice to end your season on a win, especially when you're going into the playoffs. Like, look at the Montreal Canadiens. They get into the playoffs and the win. The place was absolutely electric, the Bell Center. But, Vegas Golden Knights, a lot of their top guys are not in the lineup. The ones that were there were, Jack Eichel getting in on the score sheet. There's a lot of talk about him being in consideration for the Hart Trophy at some point this season. What he did for that team.
Yeah,
it's been unreal. So they're going to be a force. A lot of the teams in the Western Conference, it's just another one of those things where you can sit here and you look at, even without the guys that played for the Vegas Golden Knights. The Canucks obviously had some players missing as well, but that pretty much was the Vancouver Canucks team. They still got worked 4-1.
Yeah, and again,
it was a meaningless game.
I don't think Rick Tocchet's going to be too upset. I don't think the fan base is terribly upset at this game. But this game, look, Vegas, of those 50 wins, 4 of them against the Canucks. They swept the Canucks in the season series. The Canucks scored a grand total of 5 goals in the 4 games against Vegas. So if you're looking at areas where the Vancouver Canucks don't measure up against top teams, we saw Winnipeg bleach them back in January. Now the Canucks got a little bit of revenge against the Jets at home in late March, but still, over the course of the season, the Canucks' record against the top teams in the West wasn't great, and a lot of it was 4 losses against this Vegas Golden Knights hockey club that came to town, 10 days ago, beat the Canucks 3-2. Here it's 4-1 was the final. So let's get the 3 stars out of the way here early in the program tonight, and then we'll sort of get into some bigger picture issues around the hockey club. But the 3 stars in the building is selected by the Sportsnet broadcast crew, Victor Olofsson. Quinn Hughes was the 2nd star, and Pavel Dorofeyev is star number 3. Now, the Sportsnet guys, with all due respect, they missed the big picture here. We've got Victor Olofsson as the 1st star, goal, the assist. He had the primary assist on the Dorofeyev game winner, but he also got the Golden Knights on the board with his 15th of the year. So a 2-point night for Victor Olofsson. Ben Hutton with his first 2 points of the season. Came into the night probably wondering if he was going to get skunked. The answer is no. Ben Hutton picks up a pair of third-period assists on the Dorofeyev goal and the Eichel goal. In fact, it was the Eichel tip of a Hutton shot that turned out to be that 3rd Vegas goal. Now, Ben Hutton hasn't played much. He really has been a spare part. This is just his 11th game of the season, but he's been on the Vegas roster all year long, collecting an NHL paycheck, living a pretty good life at that.
The guy's got the best life right now.
Now, Calvin Hahn didn't like that situation with the New York Rangers where he dressed for practice, but he didn't play. Ben Hutton, he's been...
Yeah, but Calvin DeHaan said, go look at my hockey DB, and then maybe the Rangers staff did do that, and
we know
Ben
that
Hutton just kept his mouth shut.
Ben Hutton's a smiley guy, right? So he's just living life in Vegas, collecting NHL paychecks and getting in there at the end. So 11 games, and now he's got to be ready in case there's some injuries come playoff time. But Ben Hutton with 2 assists tonight absolutely is the 2nd star. And as we were sitting around here discussing Ben Hutton, I had completely forgotten that in the 2015-2016 season, Ben Hutton was voted the top defenseman on the Vancouver Canucks with a 25-point season.
Such a bad team. That was such a bad team. Chris Tanev missed a lot of that season. Lucas Spiza, Yannick Weber.
Matt Barkowski.
Yeah. That was, I mean,
Andre
look,
Padan had a couple of games.
the chat's about to go wild. Like, we're giving them PTSD about those seasons, the dark days and the dark ages that were the Vancouver
God
Canucks.
bless Quinn Hughes arriving on the scene.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
So Van Hutton is the second star, and Pia Suter opened the scoring, 25 goals. Terrific for him. And so we throw him a bone there as the third star of this hockey game. The 3 stars are brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. And I just want to take a moment and salute Greta. They have been terrific partners, great hosts for our Canucks Army watch parties, a ton of fun. And you've heard me say it before. This is the final post-game pod. And I want to say it again. If you haven't been down to Greta, put it on your list. Do yourself a favor. Terrific night out. Just great atmosphere, a bunch of fun. All the arcade games, the big screen TVs, that terrific street food menu. They've got weekly drink specials. Greta Bar truly is the place to be. 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin as the games end for the Vancouver Canucks. Really not a lot to dig into here.
No.
Final game of the season, maybe the final game in Canuck uniform for Brock Besser. It was a relatively quiet night for him. I know people would have loved him to have one final moment. He had a shot, slap shot in the first period on goal. Kira Schmidt made a relatively easy stop. Quinn Hughes, that was part of the storyline too, that he was supposed to get that assist that would allow him to stand alone. That's going to have to wait until next season. So Alex Edler will remain in a share of the franchise record. He's on borrowed time, but nothing can change now until October. So Quinn finishes the year with 16 goals and 60 assists, 76 points, leads the Vancouver Canucks by a mile in scoring. We all know the Quinn Hughes story this season through the injuries, and still 76 points, a remarkable run for the captain. Gave it everything he had just about every night out. There were so few nights that you would consider off nights for Quinn Hughes. Can probably count them on one hand, and I think you can probably attribute those to the injuries that he was playing through in the second half of the season. 25 minutes and 6 seconds for Quinn. 5 shots on goal, 9 attempts, so doing his thing and getting pucks to the net, but didn't figure in the scoring. One of those rare occasions, he was on the ice for the lone Canucks goal, but somehow didn't get a touch in there to allow him to get an assist. But we've done this 82 games all season long. I mean, you do run out of sort of superlatives to describe Quinn Hughes, what he means to this organization, and just the way that he carried himself and carried this team all season long. MVP, everything. I mean, like, he is everything to this team. Heart and soul, captain, spoke eloquently when times were really, really tough, took a lot of heat when he had to, and, you know, took the brunt of other people's blame and doing what a leader does for their hockey team. I mean, obviously he's frustrated. He's a guy that holds himself to a very high standard, as he should. He definitely lets his play do the talking on the ice. How many nights have we sat here where the chat and people in our comments and everywhere in social spaces have just said Quinn Hughes, 43. That's all you need to say, because he is that good. And, you know, you hope that whatever exit meetings happen here over the next couple of days, that the Canucks listen to what this guy has to say, because he is going to be part of any sort of solution moving forward. His contract, yes, we're going to have to talk about it next season. At the end of it, he's going to be eligible for an extension. He's going to get paid a lot of money. There's talk, obviously, of, you know, does he want to be here and all that kind of stuff. I think for the time being, if the Canucks can show him the clear direction and plan of this franchise and the organization and the way it's heading, Quinn definitely wants to be a part of it. I don't think there's a doubt in any of my mind there. But I think the biggest thing is management needs to know and figure out what the direction of this team is. The Beer Baron in the chat says Hughes must be so ready for a vacation right now. Dude, Cancun, Cabo, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. I guess they got to do exit meetings, but by the weekend, get out of town, hit the beach, take a little bit of downtime. But you know that Quinn's not going to shut it down entirely, and he'll be back in the gym and back home with his brothers, although I guess Luke's got some playoff action. Jack is out of commission. Quinn's going to watch playoff hockey, probably. Yeah, he's done that in the past. A couple of super chats, and we want to get those in as well. Tim Jones says, go Abby. And the Abby Canucks won again. So they've started a new winning streak. They've got 3 to go. They were 2-1 winners down in Bakersfield. So 2 remaining games in the regular season. And then playoff hockey out in the Fraser Valley. Still don't know their opponent. or the playoff dates, but keep an eye on Canucks socials for all of that. And stay tuned for some plans around Canucks Army and Rink Wide with the Abbotsford Canucks heading to the playoffs. The other super chat comes from Jaden. Says, why re-sign Suter? Hedl looks good, and we got Ratu. Well, Hedl hasn't played in a month. It was good to see him back on the ice this week. They had him out of his non-contact jersey at the morning skate. Like, why just leave him in the non-contact jersey? Like, let guys know that no point in, like, not that there's much contact in a morning skate, but I just thought it was a little strange that he was cleared for the final morning skate of the season. But, I mean, look, this week has been promising for Filip Hedl because I just didn't think we'd see him back on skates and around the group for the remainder of this season. And Ratu has finished up strong, without a doubt, tonight. Not so much with, that goes for most of the guys that were wearing Canuck uniforms, but Ratu has put in some shifts here down the stretch to certainly lay claim to a roster spot to start next season. But let's see what this management group does. We know that they got to beef up top of the lineup, and how does that affect guys a little bit lower down? But I think Ratu left a really solid impression on coaching staff, on the management group. He looks like a guy that wants to be a full-time NHLer.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's going to need waivers if they want to put him down to the minors next year in Abbotsford. So probably a penciled in spot on the Canucks roster next season. Obviously, he's got to go in and prove that, he deserves to be there. But just to go back to your point on Hedl and, kind of in the non-contact or in the contact jersey now, in the regular practice jersey at morning skate, I think it might have been like a mental thing just for him to know that he's been cleared by doctors to go and participate and get some practice time on the ice, And I think another thing, Jeff, is Filip Hedl going to change the way that he plays the game, because you see so many times a lot of people when they have concussion histories and things like that, they start to change the game differently. And I'm just going to go back to recent examples. Sven Baertschi, just one kind of the way that he played. He was tenacious on the boards, always hard in on the forecheck and things like that. Played the game at a very fast pace. Gets a couple concussions, comes back, a little more hesitant, like stops going and chasing the puck and things like that. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to happen to Hedl at all, but you have to wonder at some point if it's something that he has to look at and say, can I keep playing this way that got me here to continue play and, have a long career? You hope it's not the case, because they signed a guy that is pretty good on the forecheck. I mean, if you get 20, 25 goals from him next season, I think that would be a huge win for this organization, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And, you hope his health remains intact fully throughout the summer and his training, and he has no absolute setbacks. But I took it from that super chat. I don't think that they need to re-sign Suter.
I hear what you're saying about Hedl, but this is a guy whose sort of bread and butter is transporting the puck through the middle of the ice with speed. And, if he's going to change the way that he plays, probably lessens his effectiveness. And
it's true. I mean, it does happen to players.
Absolutely. I worry for him if that gets in his head about, protecting himself and not putting himself in harm's way. If he's thinking those types of things instead of just playing on instincts, can that allow him to be an effective player at the National Hockey League level? So let's hope that he can have a strong offseason, get rested up and ready to come back and be a contributor. The Canucks certainly can use the speed element that he brought in the brief time that we saw him after the JT Miller trade. A couple other super chats coming in, and we really appreciate this. Dominic says we need Sam Bennett. I think a lot of teams would like to get their hooks into Sam Bennett. The Florida Panthers obviously are going to have exclusive rights until July the 1st, unless they deal him. And there's still a prevailing sentiment in hockey that the Panthers are going to find a way with a rising cap to keep Sam Bennett in the fold. But let's see how he performs in the playoffs, how they perform in the playoffs, and take it from there. And a huge thanks to Matt, who has made a $20 contribution with the super chat. Just wanted to make a final donation this season to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Matt says, I think we could all use a mental health break as fans right now. Yes, the break's going to be too long, unfortunately, because it's going to span until training camp. It's not going to stop this market from talking, obviously, and speculating. But in terms of investing in games, no more games for the Vancouver Canucks until the preseason and then on to the regular season. But the Abbotsford Canucks, I think a lot of people will shift their attention to the minor league affiliate because this is an Abbey team that you can get behind with all the kids and the fact that they just rattled off 13 straight wins.
Yeah.
So, they're rolling into the playoffs looking good and feeling good. And they're going to get a bunch of the guys from the NHL team back. So, really going to be fun to see what the Abbotsford Canucks can do. And let's hope that there is a lengthy playoff run out in the Fraser Valley. So thanks to everybody with their super chats so far, and keep them coming. Going to support a great cause in the BC Mental Health Foundation. It's the final rink wide of this season. Yeah, we'll have some off-season content, but in terms of being post-game, this is it because there will be no playoff hockey for the Vancouver Canucks. But, one of the things that we did and we've had some fun with through the years here is rink wide worldwide. And so want to hear from some of you in the chat. Just drop us a line. Where have you watched Canucks hockey all season long? Where are you stationed around this planet we call Earth? And where are you checking in and connecting with both the Canucks and with us here at Rink Wide? So let us know, and we'll tally up some of the comments and we'll sort of keep track of where things are going here as we move along on the program. As we said, can't get too deep into a game like this one. Not a whole lot there. The final shots were 30-17. Vegas went 0 for 3 on the power play. Canucks just had the one power play in the third period. Didn't do anything with it. Didn't generate a single shot. So, sometimes down the stretch here, power play let them down a little bit. Penalty kill was terrific, and it was again here. So the penalty kill finishes on a high for the Vancouver Canucks. We talked about Quinn Hughes. They limited his ice time to 25 minutes and 6 seconds, so pretty manageable in that regard. But let's get to the stat that stands out because of one of there wasn't a whole lot to watch for in this hockey game. We talked about Quinn maybe getting the record, what would Brock do, and what could be his final game. But Kiefer Sherwood has been a terrific story, a great signing for the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, Quinn Hughes went to management and said, "Hey, I didn't like playing against that guy in the playoffs last year. Maybe we get him on our side." And so they went out and signed Kiefer Sherwood, and they've got him signed next year at an incredible value ticket as well. But the stat that stands out is that while there wasn't a lot of feeling in this hockey game, Kiefer Sherwood adds 8 more hits to his collection. And yes, there you can see on the live stream, Kiefer Sherwood sets the single season NHL hits record, 462. 462. Just wonder how long that's going to, that'll stand the test of time, I think, for a while.
Yeah. He's gonna need a massage after this season's over. Relaxation. Look, I think that if you would have told me that Kiefer Sherwood would have had half as many hits as that before the season started, it would have been like, great, he's hitting everything that moves. This guy hit everything. He hit everything that moved and didn't move on this NHL season. And also the rest of it, the amount of, or the level of importance that he meant to this team, Jeff. Like, they needed him when guys weren't going night in and night out. He wasn't just like a role player, a third or fourth line guy. He was a guy that got top minutes. He was a guy that they used in so many different positions. Remember the natural hat trick that he got against, was it the Winnipeg Jets? Colorado Avalanche. Yep. And, there's multiple games where he had 10 hits, and not just running around hitting people for the sake of doing it, but being impactful on the forecheck, allowing his team to get into the offensive zone, create space, and do all of that. But yeah, Kiefer Sherwood had a hell of a season for this hockey team.
19 goals. So comes up one shy of 20, but whether it's 20, whether it was 21, 19, an incredible total, career best for him. And yes, found his identity and bought into this early on. And then I think kind of ran with it and thought, like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can be the hits king in the NHL. I can set a record, and 462. And ended up playing 78 games because he missed a 4-game stretch in the middle of the season when we talk about, he plays a physical, rugged style, but it takes a toll on your own body to be able to deliver that many hits as well. So 78 games for Kiefer Sherwood, 462 hits. Absolutely a stat that stands out all season long and again here tonight. And the stat that stands out has been brought to you by Resurrection Spirits, and we want to thank them for jumping on board and becoming a partner of Rink Wide. It's been terrific to work with Jared and the guys at Resurrection Spirits. And we've been telling you for the last couple of weeks here about bogey juice. It's crafted with a tantalizing blend of crisp apple flavoring and kickin' ginger for that refreshing zing. Every shot of bogey juice, like a hole-in-one for your taste buds, sweetened to perfection with simple syrup and made even smoother with the top shelf vodka. It's the only juice that's guaranteed to make your golf buddies beam with envy, despite the score that it refers to. Check out bogeyjuice.com for more info and use promo code SP15 for 15% off Bogey Juice product and merch. 4-1, the Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Vancouver Canucks. Vegas going on to take on Minnesota in the first round of the playoffs. The Canucks' first round opponent is themselves as they battle with what went wrong all season long and come up short. Ultimately, 1 year after 50 wins and 109 points, they finished with 90 points on this season, and they'll have the 15th best, or they'll finish with the 15th place in the NHL, and a 1% chance, 0.5%, I think it is, of winning the draft lottery and moving up a maximum of 10 spots. They can't, even if they win the lottery, they can't get the first overall pick. And I think we all know how Canucks luck works with the draft lottery, so they will likely hold the 15th overall selection. Whether they use it,
that thing's got to be traded.
That's another question.
Yeah.
15 is stuck right there in that mushy middle
in a draft that's not deep.
Right. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't anticipate that you'll see the Canucks using that selection. What they do with it, what it means in the big picture, we'll have to wait and see. And that's always the next couple of months. Like, yes, playoff hockey is incredible, particularly the first round and those first few games in the first round, chaos on ice. But when you're sitting on the sidelines, really all you can do is formulate a game plan for what you want to do once the draft rolls around and free agency beyond that. But it'll be a long couple of months here in this market. A lot of talk, but obviously very little action in terms of reshaping this roster. First things first, exit meetings. We'll hear from the players later on this week. We're led to believe it'll be Friday for the players and maybe the Saturday, the long weekend for Rick Tocchet and Patrick Alvin. Not sure if we'll hear from Jim Rutherford at the exit media availability. But yeah, so you get that for the remainder of this week. And then the front office got to roll up the sleeves, get down to work, get a new deal done for Rick Tocchet. If in fact he's the guy, we're not expecting that that storyline is going to play itself out for too long, so you can look for some resolution there. I guess we'll find out in the days ahead as well whether, and I would imagine there'll be some Canucks that represent their respective countries at the World Hockey Championships. We've heard of a few that have turned down some invitations, but I think now we'll start to get a better sense of a few of the guys if maybe this isn't it as far as their hockey season is concerned.
Yeah, I think we'll start at the top, Jeff. I think an extension will get done with Rick Tocchet. I don't think Rick is wanting to leave this city until it's done. I think before or around the meetings, it's whether it's the exit meetings that he has with management and ownership and his staff and things like that. I think that something will get done. And I know fans aren't going to be happy to hear that, the system and this, that, and the other and everything, blah, blah, blah. But let me put it this way, like the captain went to bat for his coach. First of all,
yep.
He loves his coach and the coaching staff and working with Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar and all that kind of stuff. The captain does love that. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Two, coaches just don't grow on trees. They really don't. Not good ones in the National Hockey League. And a lot of them, of the high-end coaches that people are naming and doing that, they're going to want a lot more money than maybe Rick Tocchet does. Right? And for a guy that has already known this team, known this organization, knows where they are, knows its stars and who they are and where you're trying to go, what's the point of going with a new coach? I don't see it, because then you set yourself back at least another year and a half. And while Quinn Hughes is at and in his prime right now, like I don't know how you can do that.
And look, I get it. We hear from it. We see it in the chat. Like there's a large swath of Canucks Nation that doesn't want Rick Tocchet back. And I understand the frustration, but I also don't think that another head coach, a fourth head coach in 4 years, is the answer. Like, look at the Edmonton Oilers of a bunch of years ago. And still look at the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they got to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final last year, but this era with two of the best players in the world, they haven't hoisted the Stanley Cup. And, you keep going back. I mean, the problem there is they've got the star power. They just haven't surrounded the star power with quite enough to get it done. And, they're going into the playoffs this year now as a lower seed into Los Angeles. Will the Kings get it right this time after 3 straight playoff ousters at the hands of the Edmonton Oilers? I kind of like the Kings' chances in that one. So we'll see how things go there. But 4 coaches in 4 years, when you're talking about continuity and just again, does Rick Tocchet have to be malleable here and willing to change? Yeah. Although he said all the right things at the exit meeting last year about scoring off the rush and sort of stepping back and taking a big picture view, he's got his beliefs. There's no question that he's got a way that he wants his teams to play. We'll see what Patrik Allvin can do about getting the types of players that can play Rick Tocchet hockey. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm with you. I think you'll see Rick Tocchet get a deal done here relatively soon. My sense is that Rick Tocchet has given them a number, and it's a question of whether they want to step up and pay the freight. And, does he deserve to be one of the highest paid coaches in hockey? I have some issues with that. He was the coach of the year a year ago, but in terms of, guiding his teams to playoff success, didn't have any in Arizona, really. He won a round in the bubble. And obviously here had a nice run last year, but when I say nice run, it too was 2 rounds. I think he can demand a raise, but I'm not sure that he can command the type of salary as a head coach as a guy like Mike Sullivan or somebody who has those John Cooper. So they've got to find that happy. That's negotiation. They got to find the happy medium here, find something that works for both sides. But I do think that Rick Tocchet will be back as the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, unless I'm misreading the room entirely and Rick Tocchet has reservations about the direction of the hockey club and some of the things that he has been told or promised that maybe haven't been delivered to him. So again, it takes 2 sides here, but my sense is that they will come to an agreement, and Rick Tocchet will be back on a new ticket.
Yeah, look, I think Rick and Quinn had dinner earlier this week, as I think the 2 got to talking, and I think I think you're going to see an announcement at some point here in the near future about Rick coming back. I just don't see a situation where it works any other way of who you're bringing in and what have you. But you mentioned he said all the right things last season, and the way that they want to play in his systems and that. But then the indictment for this season would kind of have to fall on management's shoulders, right? You sign Vinny Desharnais, and Derek Forbort turned into a great story, but moving the puck, defense out of the rush, and things like that, you get players that slow you down. So now the free agency crop's not that great. You're not going to make offer sheets for all these sorts of different players out there. I don't know and with the cap going up, teams are going to match most offers. I would go ahead and assume this management group is going to have to, like you said, put up their sleeves and get to work, because the only way you're going to be able to improve this team, like Patrik Allvin said, was in free agency or via trade. Now, if you're going to go the trade route, who, what, when, where, why, and how? Those are the questions, and that's kind of the answers that we're going to have to see here through the summer.
Well, Rink Wide, worldwide, we're huge down under, apparently, Irf. Murray's checking in, says, hello, folks. I'm from New Zealand. Bumble Sweet says, Adelaide, South Australia, 20-odd seasons for me down here.
Huge down under.
Special hello to Murray and Bumble Sweet checking us out from the other side of the equator. Again, drop us a note in the live chat on YouTube. I just want to know where in the world you are consuming Rink Wide and keeping in touch with what's gone on all season long for the Vancouver Canucks. It was awards night. The Canucks rolled them out during some stoppages in play in the building, and they had built up some video packages to unveil their award winners. Not a lot of suspense. Quinn Hughes takes home the top defenseman. Quinn Hughes was named the most exciting, and I wasn't sure. He is the most exciting player they've got, and there's not much doubt about that, but it's a fan vote. It becomes a popularity contest. I thought that maybe they would look at a Connor Garland, who gave it a pretty solid effort all season long. Kiefer Sherwood, obviously. There are other candidates there, but no, I think they got it right. Quinn Hughes, the most exciting player. Quinn Hughes, the most valuable player. Not a surprise at all. Quinn Hughes, the top scorer. Quinn Hughes was named the 3-star award. There was one other. He was named the King Clancy nominee for the Canucks for leadership. That was yesterday. Whatever the case, team said six.
Unsung hero was Patty O'Neill.
Well, the unsung hero was Kiefer Sherwood.
Okay.
And then they had the salute to Patty O'Neill, and they unveiled it with unsung hero as well. So I don't know if that's official or if that was just sort of a nod. But Kiefer Sherwood was named the unsung hero in the building. And I kind of figured that would be the case. I know I was on Secure Price earlier today. To me, Derek Forbert was a guy who didn't say much, didn't get a lot of pub or press as the season went on, but just stepped in and did his job quietly. We all talked about Kiefer Sherwood all season because of the hits record. So it's sort of hard to define what is an unsung hero. Whatever the case, fans took a liking to Kiefer Sherwood for all the obvious reasons, and it is a fan vote after all. So congratulations to Kiefer Sherwood. He wrestled one award away from Quinn Hughes. But that was a cool moment. I was there in the building. I know you were watching in the studio.
Yeah.
The Canucks have done right by Patty O'Neill here this week. Got him on the intermission the other night with Murph. They wrote stories about him on their website. This guy has given his heart and soul to this organization. And so it was kind of cool. In one of the stoppages, we're showing at the end of the game to see Ben Hutton and Tanner Pearson, former Canucks, who certainly had a personal relationship with Patty O'Neill, led all the Vegas Golden Knights over. And I think players on any team understand the work that the training staff, the countless hours, the crazy hours that these guys put in to, do everything for the players so that they've got, the best support possible. They're the stars. They play the game, but it doesn't happen without guys behind the scenes and guys like Patty O'Neill. So a great moment there. They had him on the Jumbotron and kept the camera on him. And eventually got the towel out, waved it, and that kind of revved the fans up in the building as well. So a nice salute to Patty O'Neill, who is stepping away after 4+ decades in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, you've known Patty O'Neill probably your whole broadcast career. I've known Patty O'Neill my whole broadcast career. Everyone I think that's covered this team will have known Patty O'Neill and the players and things like that. A lot of respect for that man. Great dude. It really is one of the best you'll ever meet. Obviously getting some time now to spend some time with the family, as he said. But I think on the panel, he was on the panel with Murph last game, and Murph said, if you could write a book, it would be, Patty O'Neill said, it would be a bestseller. Just the amount of things I think that these trainers have seen, heard, gone through, the stories that they could tell. Story time with trainers is always the best. It really is, or anyone that's worked in the inside of the dressing rooms and things like that. But Trevor Linden was there. The Canucks put out a video of him basically saying that you were here for my first and my last. Now I'm going to be here for your last.
There was a lot of alumni in the suite tonight. I saw Jeff Courtnall. Trevor was there with his son. Yep. I'm sure there was others, but the alumni suite was packed. And so I think a lot of that was to come and salute Pat O'Neill one last time. We're hoping that we'll get an opportunity to get you a little post-game reaction, hear what Rick Tocchet said at the podium. Quinn Hughes, being quoted after the game, was asked if he's happy to get a chance to reset and refocus, and the captain just said, it's been such a disappointing year that it kind of not even that it's kind of like not even looking ahead to anything, just going to go home, enjoy myself, probably put my phone away, and see what happens. So a little decompressing for Quinn, as you said. Won't surprise me if he shows up in Jersey to watch a little bit of playoff hockey at some point. But this one's got a sting. It started with such high hopes coming off last year. And the expectation was that last year was sort of the starting point, that this was going to be a run of playoff performances, year in, year out. And within that, you hope that one of the years you get it right. And instead of getting to Game 7 of a second round last year against the Edmonton Oilers, here they flame out, and just think of all the reasons that they're not in the playoffs, and it is still, it's hard to make full sense of. It's going to be interesting to see what, if anybody, reveals at these exit media availabilities. I'm sure the JT and PD thing will come up in some form or fashion, or just the dysfunction in the locker room harmony and lack thereof. So we had a PD sighting in the building. They had him and Tyler Myers up on the Jumbotron. I would have liked the organization to have coached PD a little bit better and just, give him a line, like give him something he could rehearse to basically say, hey, this year didn't go the way we wanted, but I'm looking forward to working hard in the summer and coming back stronger. Instead, he basically said, you showed up every night to the fans. That was it. Yes. Yeah, they showed up. So anyways, it was short. I'm not sure how sweet it was, but we saw Elias Pettersson and Tyler Myers together with a little interaction with the fans in the arena tonight.
Yeah, I'll start with Quinn, and obviously, I mean, he's frustrated. You just think about all the shit they had to go through this year, Jeff. Like, I mean, there were times where you looked at this team, whether they smoked the Colorado Avalanche, you beat the Winnipeg Jets. Like, there were games where this team looked, that night against the Toronto Maple Leafs, where Elias Pettersson looked like he was the best. He was the best player on ice by far. There were nights they had their stuff, but when they didn't have their stuff, it's because there was something there bothering them, whether it was the JT Miller situation, whether it was, Thatcher Demko, the uncertainty around that, whether there was another injury problem or something else off the ice that was going wrong. You mentioned the continuity and everything like that. Like, there wasn't good vibes around this team at all from beginning to end. And I think that rubbed off on the players. I think it showed. I think the coaching staff had to deal with a lot of stuff this season as well. And as did management and obviously ownership, right? People aren't going to games. People are booing you on home ice. Your home ice record is awful. Like, there's a lot of stuff that went into consideration. So as Quinn says, put your phone away, kind of complete reset and get away from it. Like, just get away from all the bad, the negativity. And then hopefully, things will start to brighten up a little bit and turn a corner. And you hope a guy like you mentioned, like Elias Pettersson, yeah, he goes and trains in the offseason. He has a really big summer, probably the biggest summer of his career, Jeff. He's probably this next one for Elias Pettersson. I mean, Quinn Hughes, you know what you're going to get from him. Your other guys, you know what you're going to get. Jake DeBrusk, those guys. Brock, we can talk about him in a little bit, but if we want to get into it, I mean, the Elias Pettersson story is one that is never going to go away for as long as he's a Canuck, just because of the amount of money that he's been paid and what he means to this organization.
And again, it's been out of sight, out of mind. He hasn't played in the final month. The final numbers for Elias Pettersson, 15 goals, 30 assists, 45 points. When his career is over and you look at his Hockey DB page or Elite Prospects or whatever, I sure hope that this year stands alone as the outlier. I hope he gets back to, I don't know if he's going to be a 102-point guy ever again, but I certainly think the talent is there if he can get it all sorted out and get right and hit the ground running. He's got to be a point-a-game guy for this hockey club. They need that, given what he's paid, and I think the expectation is probably higher than that. But, if he comes back and there's another season that's anything close to 45 points when all is said and done, making $11.6 million, then, what is he doing here? What are they doing here? And how do they move forward? So, I think he's going to be back. It's not going to stop people from speculating and talking about trades. The no move doesn't kick in until July 1st. But with the lack of elite level talent on this roster, I mean, they've got a guy who has proven he can do it in the past. I think their best way forward is to rehabilitate him, to get him back to being that guy, and hopefully lead this hockey club out of the wilderness. But 45 points, just so, I mean, that's hard to explain. I know that, we all watched it unfold. I'm not telling people anything they don't already know, but it just, again, to say it out loud, like it boggles your mind that a player with that much skill and talent finished with 45 points this season.
The bare minimum next season is going to have to be 90 points, I think, for Elias Pettersson. He's going to have to get up there to being a 90-point guy. And it's going to be weird to say this because we're going to be sitting here next season talking about it. He's going to be the guy that's going to have to drag them into the fight offensively. From 45 points, you got to get to 90, and you got to get them to the playoffs. We talked about this season and said, okay, let's see what happens when the Canucks get to the playoffs next year for Elias Pettersson, because he didn't show up last season. We didn't even forget about that. He didn't even show up this regular season. And I get the injuries and I get all that, but there's no excuse. There's a reason why Patrick Alvin said what he said about Elias Pettersson wanting him, or the organization wanting him to train in Vancouver. The organization had an investment and made a very significant investment into this hockey player, right? 8 years, 92-point-something million. That's a lot of money. Where is the return of investment? And I think that's what the organization wants. They want, you're going to give you a lot. You got to give us something back here. Give us what we want for at least a 3-week period. Work with our guys, work with the doctors. They're the Vancouver Canucks. They can find ice. And don't give me because there's no practice facility bull that Elias Pettersson can't train by himself. They can find rinks. It's not hard. So I think that's one of the reasons why. And also another thing, it shows the commitment level. Like, how committed are you to staying here for another 2 weeks, maybe a month, to work with our guys, to work with the people in-house that we have, to try and get you to where we think that you need to be, instead of you going to Sweden or wherever you are doing your training in the offseason and just doing it by yourself. Most guys have awesome trainers. They do. But it gets to a certain point where you're going to want your guy to work with your guys. And when your guy's the highest paid guy, you got to have some sort of negotiation or some sort of agreement. That's at least my take on it.
Well, I know Frank Corrado was on Sakaris and Price earlier today, and he was suggesting don't spend so much time here in Vancouver. Like, get out of town, clear your mind. But Frankie wanted to see him go train with Gary Roberts and that group in the Toronto area. When you think of like Connor McDavid and others, Gary Roberts has developed a pretty good reputation for getting guys to the peak of their ability. The other one is like Sidney Crosby's got that group that skates in Aspen at some point. Like, I do wonder if Elias Pettersson shouldn't be looking at what other guys around the National Hockey League are doing. And we're talking about the top players here. So it's going to be a fascinating offseason to see ultimately what steps does he take, where does he take those steps. But the bottom line is that he's just got to come back so much better than he was right from the start of this season. And of course, it does track back to the All-Star game a year ago. This segment of Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric, and it's backed by the peace of mind of knowing it's a Toyota, and that spark of joy you get when you pass the gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. It's got all sorts of storage capacity, room for the kids and all of their sports gear. Can tuck a dog or two in there as well. And it can handle any terrain. So it can take you from the city to the slopes. If you're going mountain biking, still ski season. The BZ4X is the vehicle for you. And when you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. And now you can finance the 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Toyota or Pacific Toyota dealers. All right, a little bit of housekeeping here.
Yes.
We talked about Quinn Hughes leading the team with 76 points. Jake DeBrusk finishes with 28 goals, a career high for him. His last one came the overtime winner the other night against the San Jose Sharks. So he had scored in 4 straight. Streaky Jake DeBrusk, but does not score in this hockey game, but does lead the team in goals with a career best 28 in his first year in Vancouver. There were 2 guys that played all 82 games for the Vancouver Canucks. DeBrusk was one of them. Teddy Bluger was the other. And, of course, Drew O'Connor ended up playing 84 games this season, but not all in a Vancouver Canuck uniform acquired on that night. The Canucks peddled JT, got the return from the Rangers, and then moved some of that to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor. Brock Besser finishes his season 25 goals, 25 assists, and that's 50 points. And Connor Garland got the first assist on the Suter goal tonight, and Connor Garland got to 50 points as well. So people were wondering how many 50-point forwards will the Vancouver Canucks have. The answer is 2. And I see Sportsnet Stats putting out a tweet here. We've talked about Quinn Hughes and his brilliance. Quinn Hughes finishes 26 points ahead of Besser and Garland in the team scoring derby. The largest scoring lead over the next closest teammate by a defenseman in NHL history, Erik Karlsson with the Sharks a couple of years ago, was 34 points better than anybody else. Quinn Hughes second on that list now with a 26-point bulge over his teammates as a defenseman. So, again, any way you slice it, it's been a remarkable year for Quinn Hughes. And I firmly believe this, and this is something that I wonder about the Canucks digging into as well in the offseason, is how do you harness that greatness? Like, how does Quinn Hughes get 76 points and the highest scoring forward only has 50 on this team? And this is not about Quinn Hughes. It's about the other guys. How do they feed off Quinn Hughes? How do they get inspired more than they are by Quinn Hughes and the way that he digs in every single night? But ultimately, how do they help themselves boost their point totals? Because Quinn's going to get his. That's what he does. And I guess there's sort of a two-prong approach here. One is, do the Canucks have to do more as a team to tilt the ice and tilt the scoreboard in their favor when Quinn is on the ice? Or is it more important that they find a way to raise their level of performance when Quinn isn't on the ice? Because it's a stark contrast. The numbers have been out there laid bare for all to see. They really are two different teams. When Quinn Hughes is on the ice and when Quinn Hughes isn't on the ice or isn't in the lineup. And so, he is their biggest weapon, offensive weapon, without a doubt. So, I'm not asking him to do more, but I'm asking the guys around him to benefit more from playing with Quinn Hughes.
100%. And I'm going to go all the way up to management. They got to get better players. First of all, they really do. That's just flat out. They got to get players that are elite level talents. Elias Pettersson is in that elite level when he is there. Beyond that, Jake DeBrusk, you mentioned the streaky score. He did get up to his 25, 26 goal mark this season, but that's what you're going to get from Jake DeBrusk. One season, maybe he's going to score all home goals, and then he might not score all road goals. Look, most of his goals this season, his damage that he did was away from Rogerina. Granted, the team played better, a lot better away from the rink, but
that goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
if he scores more at home, maybe they win a few of those tight games, right?
Well, that's what I mean. Niels Höglander, sure, he's going to have a great season. He finished the season really strong, was definitely in the coach's good books, but he's a 6 guy, maybe a top 6 guy. Like, is he really? And then you're going to get contributions from your bottom 6 forward group, the Kiefer Sherwoods of the world, the Dakota Joshuas of the world. You're going to need more out of him. But those are your third and fourth line type of players. In that top 6 forward group, like Filipino, Elias Pettersson, those are your 2 centers, Connor Garland. Like, you got to get someone that just puts you over the edge, that just adds more fuel to the fire that you already have with Quinn Hughes. And who knows, maybe you might unlock something even more that Quinn Hughes has if he sees how much more offensive firepower there is in this lineup. So I think the work has to be done by the management in this offseason. And yeah, Brock Besser, we're probably going to have to go there here at some point, Jeff, because of what the future holds and things like that for him. But how do you replace a once 40-goal scorer and then a 20-goal scorer if you are going to do that from within? You just can't.
Yeah, and look, year over year, Niels Höglander was a 24-goal scorer last year. We know that it was a struggle in the early going. His play since Christmas has been much better. It's been more consistent. And we've started to see some points for Niels Höglander. He got the second assist on the only goal that the Canucks scored. But in saying all of that, Niels Höglander finished with 25 points in 72 games. His new contract kicks in at $3 million a year. It's not prohibitive in any way, but they need a whole lot more from Niels Höglander. Yeah. If he's going to come back and get the opportunities to play higher in the lineup next year, he's got to earn that still. And remember, he came to camp, tested. He was one of the best in the fitness testing. I remember talking to him in Penticton, said he had never felt better coming to a training camp, and then got off to just a dreadful start. But he finishes with 25 points. Drew O'Connor finished with 25 points. And that's not a knock on Drew O'Connor in any way. It's that Niels Höglander, they expect more from him. He's got to expect more from himself. He had 8 goals. He had 24 a year ago. Dakota Joshua, and we know the story here. And he gets his grace, and he gets his off season now, healthy, hopefully, to train and hit the ground running. But just in terms of raw numbers, Dakota Joshua was an 18-goal scorer in 63 games, earned the hefty new contract, and he finished with 7 goals in 57 games. So you get 8 goals from Höglander and 7 from Joshua. Those guys combined for 42 last year, and they combined for 15 this time around. Now, they're both candidates to bounce back, right? Like, I'm hard-pressed to believe that if they play full seasons and are healthy, that the Canucks will get 15 goals from those guys combined next year. But one thing to say it, and it's another to actually get out there and make it happen. So,
Dakota Joshua has to deliver. Like, I really do. He's got to come back to that player. And Rick Tocchet talked about it near the end of the season and kind of on a couple instances that he was starting to find his game. Okay, so have a big summer, build off that, harness it, use whatever energy that you have into building yourself and being that impactful player next season. But again, Jeff, this goes back to my point. The contributions that they're going to have from Dakota Joshua, from Kiefer Sherwood, from guys like Linus Karlsson, they still need contributions from guys on the top of the lineup. These are bonus guys. They're going to top out at some point. Connor Garland had 50 points this season, and that is maximum effort from a guy like Connor Garland. You need an 80-point guy. You need a 75-point guy that isn't named Elias Pettersson somewhere.
Well, they've got one in Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, but these are defensemen. I'm on the forward group, yeah.
I hear you, but Quinn Hughes sort of shifts the way that the Canucks operate, but they absolutely need more from their forward group. And look, Connor Garland, about as consistent as you get. I mean, he's a 50-point guy. That's what he's been all 4 years. 20 goals, 50 points. He's been within, a couple of points, both sides of 50 in his time here. But that's essentially, you get the hustle and the work rate and everything else. But yeah, Connor Garland's not going to be a 75 or 80-point guy. That's not who he is. He can help you in other ways, but you're right. But we can sit here and scream that on Rink Wide Vancouver. How you make that happen as an NHL operation and organization, Patrick Allvin better have a top hat, and he's going to have to pull a couple of rabbits out of it over the offseason. And the other part there is the whole league knows that too. Nobody's doing the Canucks any favors. It's a competitive league. And as we've said in the past, not only are the Canucks looking to keep up with McDavid and Draisaitl, who I don't think are going anywhere in Edmonton, and this Vegas outfit that seemingly year over year, all they do is win. But they got to look over their shoulder. The Calgary Flames have a ton of young players, and they've got the belief system now coming as close as they did to making the playoffs. Anaheim, I think, is ready to continue to make progress and make a step. And at some point, the San Jose Sharks are going to get traction. It probably won't, they won 20 games this year, so they're not likely to a meteoric leap next year. But in a couple of seasons, led by Macklin Celebrini, who clearly is the real deal, those teams are going to be behind the Canucks and trying to overtake the Vancouver Canucks. And that's the challenge of operating where the Canucks are, sort of in the middle, without internal elite level talent outside of Quinn Hughes.
Well, here's my last thing about Quinn Hughes. You mentioned they have to figure out a way. Patrick Allvin needs to figure out a way. They just need to look at Quinn Hughes' ice time. They really do. We can sit here and we laugh about him when we look at the numbers and say, oh my God, he played 30 again. He played 30 again. He played 28 again. He played 26 again. He played 29. At some point, it is going to wear him down. It is going to hurt him. There's going to be a devastating injury. It is going to happen if you play this player this much every single night. Now, I know Quinn Hughes and Rick Tocchet and everybody can say all the right things, but it's going to happen. It's the human body. It's not meant to do that for that long, for that long of a period of time. So they just need to look at the numbers. Quinn Hughes is obviously always going to say the right things, but get another defenseman then. Find another offensive defenseman.
But they think the top of their defense is set now with Hronek and Marcus Pettersson. And the idea of getting Pettersson was to, insulate Quinn Hughes on that left side so that he didn't have to play as much. And yet you saw when the chips were down and they were still in the playoff hunt, their one approach was just to play the wheels off Quinn Hughes. And I'm with you that I think less can be more, that these 30-minute nights got out of hand down the stretch. That's not a game plan. That is hope. That's you're just leaning on one guy and hoping that somehow he's going to will you to victory. And he tried his best, and there weren't many nights where you could look at Quinn Hughes and say they needed more from him or he wasn't good enough. But playing him half the game, that is not a game plan. All right, we've got Rick Tocchet from the podium after the Canucks 4-1 season closing loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. So let's hear from the head coach as he reflects on the night and the season as a whole.
Just your thoughts on the game as a whole and the finish to the season for your group.
Yeah, it was half decent early, and then third, execution again. But like I said, last game of the year, I thought the first part was pretty good.
Lankinen left after 2 periods.
Yeah, he pinched something. He just felt uncomfortable, so didn't want to risk anything.
Kind of a weird situation just for these guys. I mean, they know the end is near for a bit, and just to see it come to an end.
Yeah, it sucks, right? And, we talked about that this morning. But you got to learn from adversity. You look at a team like Vegas. That's what you strive for. They wear you down heavy on pucks. You got to win puck battle, things like that. But use it as motivation. To win in this league, you got to go through pitfalls.
Take me through what the next 48 hours are going to be like for you with player meetings and things like that coming up.
Yeah, the exit meetings they're 10, 15 minutes with each guy. I mean, it's more than that down the road. You make phone calls, you go visit guys. That's a whole, but I think it's good for a 15-minute conversation to touch base of what's going to happen and, what you want to do in the summers and stuff like that. And that's really it, the process of it.
Rick, 11 months ago in this room, right after, within 20 minutes of your season ending, you were really quick to spotlight sort of the idea of putting respect back in the jerseys as something you were proud to have accomplished last season. Obviously a different feel this time around, but how do you reflect just as it's ended on sort of what you experienced over the past 7 months?
Yeah, I don't want to really play the what-if game. I think you got to reflect on the year, what could you have did different, scenarios, situations. I'm not going to use excuses at all. I know that you guys know this year what's happened, but you got to deal with that stuff. Could we have dealt with it better? Things like that, and that's why you got to take a deep dive. We talked about embracing the hard at the start of the year, and maybe we weren't ready for it.
Last week of the season, for an eliminated team, the pace kind of slows a little bit inevitably, even if you're still getting professional efforts, and you largely did. But then you sort of have in the third period, Kiefer Sherwood still throwing hits. Looked like he upset Jack Eichel on it. Obviously upset Nick Hague. What do you take from that, if anything?
Well, that's what you need, right? You want that kind of attitude. You're right. But at that point, the microcosm is we have the goalie pulled. We got three guys not moving in the middle of the ice, and that's kind of sometimes what happens, and we got to go through that barrier. You need the Sherwoods and those guys to keep pushing. That's what we need, and that's really what it comes down to. So yeah.
Rick, you've been honest with us about why you wanted to wait until after the season before you talked about your contract, and also that you needed to kind of debrief with Patrick and Jim and players. How long do you think the process will take before you know your status for next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we'll probably talk about it more in a couple of days, but there's things that you got to go through the process. There's a lot of different things, right? You got to go through it, and the season just ended. Obviously, you just move along and see where it goes, right? But there's a lot. There's more stuff we got to talk about.
You coached for an extra month last.
All right, there you go. Rick Tocchet asked about reflecting on this season in the moments after the final buzzer. He alluded to the JTPD thing without saying it, and talked about how did they manage it? Could they have done it better? Wasn't going to get into all the issues. We all know them, but without directly saying it, I think he pointed to the one thing more than other that dragged this team into the ditch this year.
No, absolutely. And look, Rick's an honest guy, and I think that had things gone a little bit differently and they could have sorted it out earlier rather than letting it get to the point where it completely blew up and it became a national story on Hockey Night in Canada and on TNT and ESPN, then things might have gone a little bit differently for this team. But unfortunately, in the way that we live and in the work that we do, people find stuff out. It's going to get out. Things are going to get out, and stories are going to get blown out of proportion. I'm not saying this one did, because it definitely did, and everything that was said happened. A lot of it happened, but I just think that that's a guy that's going to need to take a couple of days here. And you mentioned the process, and have the talking tos of Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford. But what's interesting about what he said about exit meetings, he was asked about it and said that, exit meetings are just 15 minutes. It's about what you do when you phone the guys in the summer and you go for visits and things like that. Coach ain't going for visits without a job. I'll tell you that much.
That's true. He's dropped a few hints along the way here in recent days that he's certainly speaking like a guy that's going to be back. Jake in the chat says, Talk looks emotional. Maybe it's just me, but he looked choked up. Look, it's got to be tough on him. I think he wants, like everybody, wants playoff hockey here. And playoff hockey's fun. It's hard, but it's fun. And you saw the way the city embraced this organization last year. And so to, the hard, cold reality of 16 teams are going to play on, and the Canucks aren't one of them. I do wonder, with his success and his role at the Four Nations, if he has been approached by Hockey Canada to coach at the Worlds. That is something I think that he'll be asked when we get a chance to talk to him next at the exit media availability. So I do wonder if his season, we talked earlier about players, I wonder if Tocchet's season is done. The other Four Nations coaches are all moving on to the playoffs. So, if Hockey Canada is looking for that continuity, Rick Tocchet's there. If that's something that he is interested in, and he said take a few days, certainly he didn't mention negotiation. So, maybe not quite there yet in terms of putting pen to paper on that extension. The Canucks fall 4-1 to the Vegas Golden Knights in the season finale, 38-30 and 14. Are the Vancouver Canucks a 90-point season this year, a drop of 19 from the 109 points that they had last year when they won the Pacific Division. All right, season's over. On to the playoffs for those teams that qualify, and we're turning our attention here to the playoffs as well. It's time for our Bet365 line of the night.
Holy crap, Jeff. Breaking news coming in from Bet365. Playoffs are coming where every nail-biting overtime win, it's a barn burner. Face-off hat trick. Power play goal, shot on goal, penalty shot on every suspenseful minute in between. It's amazing. Won't be seeing it here. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. A Bet365 official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app. Use code NATION and get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Okay, so I went and handicapped a few of these series. As you can see, it's a long one. So Colorado plus 1.5 means they can't lose by 2. Edmonton plus 2.5. Obviously can't lose that series 3 games to whatever by 3, and so on and so forth. That's what I like. Those odds are pretty good for all of that. The only one that might get out of hand is the Minnesota Wild. They could lose that one 4-1 to the Vegas Golden Knights, but I think they've got 2 games in them. I think Kaprizov can give them 2 games. Obviously, Joel Eriksson Ek basically gave them a month of really, really, really good hockey to get them into the playoffs. So that's what I like. I might do some more weird stuff, and if I do, I'll tweet it out. But that's kind of my bare minimum of what I'm going to start with.
Battle of Ontario is going to be fun.
Oh, Ontario's going to be awesome. I think
Senators playing with house money, obviously. Ton of pressure on the Leafs there. But I think the Sens are capable. I'm not sure that I'm picking them, but I think they're capable of pulling off the upset. St. Louis is interesting to me. You've got, the Shen brothers. They're going to go head-to-head.
And when does the hot run out for St. Louis?
Well, you got the Four Nations goaltending battle there, right? The Jets know that there's pressure on them to get it right this year. But I also want the Blues have been on that run that you talked about. But, if Winnipeg punches them straight in the face here and takes the first 2, there hasn't really been a ton of true pressure on the Blues. They rode the wave. They got into playoff contention. Playoffs are different. And I do wonder what happens if they get behind the 8 ball. But they certainly have the last 6 weeks to draw on. So playoff hockey is a thing of beauty. That first round, bodies flying everywhere. The intensity in the first 5 minutes of those opening games is just so off the chart. Going to miss that, obviously. But we'll be watching. Just won't be watching the Vancouver Canucks. But we thank Bet365 for their support of Rink Wide and all of our Nation Network shows all season long. So it's always been fun. Get Nerf's take on things to look for in the games on the out-of-town scoreboard.
I had a pretty good record, and then I think it went sideways late in the season, which kind of has been the story of betting lately. But the one I do like? I do like the Kings. I think that the Oilers, with all the pressure and everything like that, that's the one that I like. Kings have home ice. They don't lose on home ice at all, and I think they're going to get it right in the 4th straight year. I think they're going to get it right this time.
I think those first 2 games in LA are going to be really interesting because if they do take care of home ice, get a 2-0 lead on the Oilers, now the Oilers have to win 4 of 5.
Yeah.
Oilers know that they have to win 1 in LA. If they can do it early, that takes the pressure off. But LA played for home ice advantage as the higher seed. Game 7 would be at home. They have been incredible. 5 regulation losses. Now, Oilers don't care if it's a regulation win or an overtime win. They just need wins at Crypto.com. But I'm with you. I think 4th time will be the charm. I think the Los Angeles Kings will find a way, led by Andrei Kuzmenko, to get the job done against the Edmonton Oilers. We're starting to see bits and pieces about playoff scheduling. Playoffs get going on Saturday. The entire playoff schedule isn't out just yet, but there will be games on Saturday night, and then I think every other night for a whole bunch of weeks as the playoffs move along and the field gets narrowed. All right. I want to mention the Vancouver Canadians, who, as the hockey season ends, the baseball season has just started up here in Vancouver. The Seas had their home opener last night. And by all accounts, ballpark looked beautiful. Fun game. Ended up on the short end of the score, but still a great night of entertainment, as it usually is out of the Nat. And they've got a homestand. They're here at home with the weather right now. So get out to Nat Bailey Stadium. The first Friday nooner is set for Good Friday afternoon. First pitch there at 1:05. Week ends with a White Spot Family Fun Sunday. That's an afternoon game, and then the kids can run the bases when the game is done. For tickets, check out CanadiansBaseball.com and do yourself a favor over the course of the summer months and get out to the Nat to take in some Vancouver Canadians baseball. We mentioned earlier Abbotsford won tonight down in Bakersfield. So they've got 2 games to go in the regular season. They are now 14-1-1 in their last 16 hockey games. And they're going to get reinforcements here. I can't imagine that they would send these guys down for the final 2 regular season games. I would think the guys that played in the NHL probably stick around to the exit meetings here and then meet Abby when they get back off the road and get ready for the playoffs. But I don't know that. For a fact, Abbotsford's at Coachella Valley on Friday, and then they finish up against the Kings Farm team in Ontario, California on Saturday. So that's what's up with your Abbotsford Canucks, and I think a lot of people will turn their attention to the farm team and see what they can do come playoff time in the American Hockey League. Again, they're going to host an opening round, so home ice advantage for the Abbotsford Canucks, and we'll wish them well the rest of the way.
We have the captain if you want.
Yeah. Let's do that. Quinn Hughes following this one. I saw a few of his quotes earlier.
Yeah.
Has to be dejected just with the way the season obviously has unfolded and no playoff hockey despite his best efforts most nights. Here is Quinn Hughes following the 4-1 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, frustrating for sure.
What about just finishing the season? I know you'd rather be in the playoffs, but since you knew for a couple of weeks you haven't been, are you happy to just kind of refocus and reset and look ahead now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been such a disappointing year that it's kind of like just not even going to look ahead to anything. Just go home, enjoy myself, and probably put my phone away and then see what happens.
What's your process now? The team will do exit meetings tomorrow, but for you, you take time off? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, definitely take some time off, and yeah, for sure.
Do you go to the Worlds if Team USA asks?
I don't think so, no.
Patty O'Neill and his career came to an end tonight. What can you say about what he's meant to you?
Yeah, he's just a terrific person, and we've had some great years, some tough years here through the 6 years I've been here, and he's the guy that no matter what you come in, he's got a smile on his face, and he's the same person to everyone. He acts the same every single day. So he's a legend in Vancouver, a pillar for the organization, and he's seen so much, so many great players, great people, coaches, management, captains. And he's definitely a legend here, and he'll be missed. And I talked to him today. I know his plan is to still be around the rink a little bit. Just it's going to be probably hard to go cold turkey for him, but yeah, just a tremendous human being, and yeah, he'll be around next year. So
you talk about that demeanor he has every day. How important is that for you guys to have that in a season like this, where you had all sorts of ups and downs and various things that happened?
Yeah, I mean, he's. Especially when I first came to this locker room, I'm 19 years old. He's, probably looking at me like he's seen 1,000 of me. 19-year-old kids that don't know anything about anything. And he's just a tremendous person, and is great at his job first and foremost, but will go above and beyond for anyone, even that 19-year-old kid. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Quinn was like any other 19-year-old that rolled into that Canuck locker room, and certainly hasn't been like any other 25-year-old that they've got. And I think that's the beauty in all of this, is he is just 25 years of age and still room for growth.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, this is a guy that's attacked every offseason and tried to find ways to get better, and generally has come back better than the year before. So that's exciting for Quinn Hughes. But you could just hear, and you could, if you're watching the live stream, you could just see the expression there dripping with frustration after a taxing year, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, what's he supposed to say? He wants to get away from everything, shut his phone off, not have to worry about anything, go on an absolute bender with the boys to finish the season, and that's it. Get exit meetings and go back home.
We asked earlier, Rink Wide Worldwide, and wanted to know where people were checking us out. Eddie says, dedicated viewer from Bangkok, Thailand. Thank you, Jeff and Irf.
Yes.
So, right back at you, Eddie. We appreciate your support, and we thank everybody that has been with us on this journey 82 times. In fact, it was a few more than that, because we did a couple of preseason games as well, just to shake off the rust and make sure that we had everything buttoned down and ready to go on opening night. And you know what? In hindsight, maybe opening night was a tell of what was to come with the Canucks jumping out to the 3-0 lead and the 4-1 lead. Daniel Sprong scoring the first goal of the season for the Vancouver Canucks, and ultimately it got away from them then, and got away from them all season long as well. And in the end, the Canucks come up short. Now, earlier in the day, on X, I had said, Quinn Hughes, Kevin Lankinen, Pia Suter, Kiefer Sherwood, through all the dysfunction, there have been a few good news stories for the Canucks in this lost season. And I asked, what was the best game, moment, or individual accomplishment from the season? And a lot of people said I missed Jake DeBrusk in that list. And yes, I didn't include him there, but 28 goals in his first season as a Canuck, leading the team as a goal scorer. I think, yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about Jake DeBrusk in previous shows. A lot of people mentioning D. Petey and sort of coming out of nowhere. As far as games are concerned, the comeback in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, that one's going to live on. You're the only time in NHL history that a team has come from 3 down in the final minute of regulation and then gone on to win. So not something you see all the time. Kemp said the Columbus game at home in early December, they were down 2-0 in the first intermission. Shots were 17-2 for Columbus after the first period, and the Canucks ended up winning that one by a score of 5-2. So a bit of a turn of events there. Ricky says the penalty killing being number 2 in the NHL, and that was when you think of not that long ago under both Travis Green and Bruce Boudreau, the penalty kill sunk them on so many nights, and for it to truly be a strength now, if all the component parts are back, then there's no reason that it can't be that good again next season, and something for the Vancouver Canucks to build on. So, yeah, lots of people with lots of memories, and look. Yes, the season got away from the Canucks, overwhelming disappointment, but within that, in 82 games, there were still moments. Somebody was talking about Kiefer Sherwood and the hat trick against the Avs back in December. Thatcher Demko with a shutout of the Colorado Avalanche later on in the season. Mike in Portland says Dak coming back without a doubt. Doing your job, even outperforming your job's expectation is difficult, but coming back from a cancer diagnosis, a whole other level. And we did talk there, too, that, yes, like just the mere fact that Dakota Joshua, in the same season that he was diagnosed and had surgery for cancer, is back and plays 57 games, that is a great news story, but it can't be the story next year for Dakota Joshua. He's got to train this season and come back, hit the ground running, and be a whole lot closer to the player that he was that earned the big contract and was an 18-goal scorer for the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, I mean, so many people talking about Quinn Hughes and all the things that he did and the nights that he had. Without a doubt, Kevin Lankinen getting a lot of love as well. And you heard Rick Tocchet say, pinch something. We don't know what he pinched, but enough discomfort that no reason to keep him in there for one final period. So Nikita Tolopilo took over and got his second NHL appearance.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot to kind of digest in this season? You mentioned there's so many different storylines, good, obviously bad, moments that were definitely there that either took our breath away or made us shake our head, to be completely honest, at this team and kind of the direction it headed. And I think the biggest thing for me is, now that the season's wrapped up, is when we hear eventually from Patrick Allvin and maybe Jim Rutherford, is what is this direction? Like, where are they going? What is the plan for this team after you regress completely, where your stars don't, perform other than Quinn Hughes, where you have fighting in the locker room, where you have a whole bunch of other stuff not going your way and you don't get your results, and you're a way better road team than you are a home team, where that should be next to impossible. I mean, look at the LA Kings. They don't lose on home ice, right? Only the Chicago Blackhawks and San Jose Sharks were worse on home ice, and you don't want to be in that group. So the direction, I think, is the biggest thing. And I also think it's big for the players. Like, Quinn Hughes wants to know who's coming in. Elias Pettersson, who's going to be my winger next season? Other guys in the lineup, who is playing with who? What's going to happen here? So it doesn't need to be a complete overhaul, but a sense of direction and where they're going is probably a nice thing to have. And especially continuity all the way through with the head coach, with management, obviously down to the players.
Well, yeah, we were here night in, night out, 82 games. We wish there were more. Playoffs was so much fun last year.
It was great.
We took the show out on the road. Our viewership was through the roof. People were buying into what we were doing here post-game. I think we have planted our flag firmly in the post-game space. We have become an option for you, the viewer, after every Canucks game. And I think many of you have become regulars. And boy, do we appreciate that. And the chat on a nightly basis, peanut butter seemed to be a topic of choice tonight. I don't think I want to go down that road.
No,
but,
you don't.
Yeah,
It's okay. I was handling it.
When I checked every time, I was like, well, more peanut butter talk, but let's just leave it
You
at
got
that.
into the jam too. But.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, I want to thank the sponsors. We are nothing without the support of our partners, and we have some terrific ones here at Rink Wide. And if you are a business owner or you control the advertising budget of a company and you've become a supporter of Rink Wide and you'd like to get involved, we'd love to have that chat with you over the off season. So you can find us on our social channels. But the partners that we did have: Bet365, Greta Bar all season long, Resurrection Spirits, Pacific Toyota Dealers, the Vancouver Canadians, and our partner as well for the Super Chats, the BC Mental Health Foundation. Terrific people to deal with. And again, we thank them for their support. We don't do this. We don't get the chance to do this and come and talk about Canuck hockey after each and every game without the support of our terrific partners. So a big shout out to all of them. The games are over, but the coverage is going to continue at Canucks Army. In fact, it gets ramped up here. And for a lot of people, the offseason is more exciting, quite frankly, than the season that was. So if you don't already, make sure that you add Canucks Army to your bookmarks and favorite sites, because all sorts of original content and covering off all the news as well over at Canucks Army. And make sure you follow on all the socials there as well. I want to thank Jacob Lazar, our technical producer. Has been terrific to work with, has been a huge part of taking this show from the audio-only podcast to the live stream. And I think we started with 6 games to go in the regular season last year. And then we were up and running for the playoffs. But this was our first full season of doing live streams. And Irf, you were here about 85% of the games. And we thank PJ and Farhan and Quads and Harm sat in as well a couple of times. So it's been great to have the support and the camaraderie as well of all of the co-hosts. But you've been my wingman for the most part. It's been a ton of fun. It really has. Despite the disappointment on the ice, we tried to keep it light on a lot of nights as well, and tried to find the good in a lot of these games where we could. And so it was a blast doing this with you all season long.
Always is a blast, Jeff. You're one of the hardest working guys that I've ever worked with, and always learn a lot coming and doing these games. Don't know what the future is going to hold, but I'm sure we'll be back in some way, shape, or form working together, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, we haven't put our final plans together yet, but I think we here at Canucks Army and Convo and Rink Wide, we'll be turning our attention to the Abbotsford Canucks and their playoff run. And, so the Canucks talk isn't going to stop. It's just going to be a reallocation of our resources and the focus. And so, again, we hope that we've kind of built a little community here after each and every Canucks game, a one-stop shop to come and to join in the conversation, the live chat, and listen to us break down these hockey games night after night after night. So you, the hockey fans, deserve better, quite frankly, and hopefully better arrives as early as next season. And fingers crossed that they can deliver playoff hockey and start to build this thing to the point that the Vancouver Canucks can be contenders once again. It's been far too long. It's been a dark decade. Playoff appearances have been sporadic, and that's unfortunate because it is such a loyal and deserving fan base, and the product just hasn't matched the support that the fans give. And we know the stories there too about ticket prices being jacked for next year, and so you're being asked to pay more to consume this product. Not this product. Rink Wide will be the same price. Our rates aren't going up for next year, but just I think frustration and disappointment. We felt it in our social channels and in the live chat as well all season long. But end of the line. Season is over, and on to what has to be a very important and a very skillfully negotiated offseason now for the Vancouver Canucks. So for Jacob, working behind the scenes, and for Irf, I'm Jeff. Again, thanks so much for all of your support all season long. Have yourself a great summer, and make sure you're back with us when Rink Wide starts up again in the fall. So that is going to do it for this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.